Good morning and welcome once more to Blain's Morning Porridge. It's April 2026, the start of a new quarter. This morning, let's talk about Artemis II, SpaceX, data centers, and competition. Space will end up being one of the places that keeps making Earth better, and that's our quote for this morning. Hype and reality seldom mix. Elon Musk is the exception that proves the rule. The Space X IPO is set to make him the world's first ever trillionaire, but what if competition is already eating his lunch in space-based data centres before he's even looked at the menu? In the Tortoise versus the Hare space race, will Jeff Bezos emerge the winner? Now, today's launch of the Artemis II four-man mission to circle the moon is the most exciting thing to happen in space exploration for decades. But commercially, the financial markets are focused entirely on how superlative the SpaceX IPO is set to be in terms of size, price, and profit action, or at least they were. The excitement around the Artemis mission obscured the success of yesterday's launch of a duo of geosynchronous satellites built by Singapore tech firm JieYuren on a prototype Blue Origin New Glenn rocket. The launch wasn't only a rare example of Asian-American corporate tech cooperation, but could be the straw that breaks the Elon Musk myth. If any of Musk's legion of fanboys were paying attention, it should have reminded them that the new ex-Earth-based economy will literally be a competitive space. Sorry, I can't resist giggling at that one. The future never stays the same. Not only has Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin achieved multiple orbital insertions for the New Glenn rocket and delivered a package into high orbit, but the two JieYuren satellites are prototype units for orbital data centers, a concept Musk thought he'd pretty much patented. According to Avril Salmon, JieYuren's spokesperson, yesterday's joint launch is not a deliberate spoiler for SpaceX, but a clear demonstration that there are multiple pathways to monetize space, not just the Musk vision. And the SpaceX IPO is expected to value Musk's firm at $1.75 to $2 trillion on a $75 billion record float as early as June. Now, Musk is very clever in the way that he milks his fan base. He's announced that 33% of the IPO will be targeted at retail investors, and Musk does that because he knows his retail fans are sticky, they suck up whatever he says, and they ask fewer difficult questions than institutional investors. The IPO itself will be launched on a tidal wave of hype to back up the extraordinary valuation, and the $2 trillion expectation is based around a number of different things. There is SpaceX's current domination of commercial spaceflight through its very successful and very reliable Falcon 9 rocket, and the serious revenues it's now reaping from the Starlink system, which has significant growth potential from untapped internet users. And to be clear here, I have fitted it to my boat and it's excellent. But the main component of the massive valuation for SpaceX is the massive future revenue streams that Musk says he expects to garner from space-based data centers and the Starship heavy lift rocket system that will one day dump him on Mars. How achievable, sustainable, and likely these revenue streams are is very debatable, especially if space becomes a hotly contested competitive market. Now, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have very different approaches to space. Bezos and his Blue Origin project prefer to be the tortoise and progress slowly. He recently dispensed with the flummery of space tourism to focus on making the New Glenn the heavy lift rocket of choice. He's focused on being a reliable partner to NASA, and many space economy investors reckon the Blue Origin approach is just too methodical, But that's exactly what got the Americans to the moon and back in the 1960s. Rocket watchers say that Blue Origin's launch schedule is just too slow, claiming his team aren't getting the benefit of learning the lessons that Musk crews are. JieYuren's approach is close to Chinese AI methodology. Build good enough, open source, and keep it simple. They've described it as the pencil approach to solving space-based data centers. Rather than inventing a pen for zero gravity, they use a pencil instead. In contrast, Musk is the Hare. His Starship has launched multiple times, but has still not completed a single full orbital flight plus a successful recovery. And that's because his fail-fast approach is being overwhelmed by the complexity of the machine. The 36 Raptor engines make it the most powerful thing ever built, but complexity and weight means it rattles and rolls through the incredible stress of liftoff, tends to blow up while experiencing shutdowns. There has been much speculative comment that the rocket is underpowered and too heavy to reach orbit with a useful payload. And to lob useful payloads into space, they are still talking about refueling the rocket while it's still in its ascent stage, which has never ever been done. Musk's fail-fast ethos has seen many spectacular fireballs, which the Musk Fanboy Club is happy to accept as the price of his genius. But what if they are wrong? What if Musk can't make Starship work and provide regular, reliable, heavy lift capacity? If so, someone else will, and Blue Origin's New Glenn looks a potential likely winner. Now, Musk is a brilliant marketer and the king of snake oil. He's seen the opportunity to monetize his space delivery platforms and boost his rather meh XAI, which is now part of SpaceX, by persuading the world that orbital data centers are the solution to everything AI. And if the million very large bases that he intends to build will be crewed by his Optimus robots and powered by massive solar arrays, then all the revenue goes to SpaceX. But the question is how to pay for it now. And the plan is to get outside investors to buy the IPO, paying today for what he might be able to deliver tomorrow. Now, the IPO will be sold on the revenues Starlink is generating, but even more so on the massive amounts of money that SpaceX will make as the monopoly orbital data center provider, and from spaceship flying to Mars and back. So I really can't wait to read the risk statements in the prospectus. Now, Musk has talked the donkey's hind legs about the value of a space-based data center, but he has not actually produced any detailed conceptual framework or addressed the multiple technical problems that are so blindingly obvious to everyone else in the space industry. In contrast, the Singapore firm JieYuren appears to have addressed many of the issues that Musk is still only just beginning to blabber about. For instance, instead of trying to build Musk's space station-sized orbital data centers, the Singaporeans have adopted the latest flock tech, combining multiple small units using digital laser links to create what will be the world's first scalable distributed space data center. And each individual unit contains a fraction of the number of hardened chips that might be expected in a normal traditional Earth-bound data center, but their CTO, Xin Lucy, says the multiple ways that AI-managed units in the larger flocks they intend to create will learn to operate between themselves with massive improvements in chip interfunctionality, rather like human neurons in our brains. And parking data center satellite flocks in geosynchronous orbits, well, that's not perfect because it will add to the latency issue. That's the time that it takes the delay between Earth stations and the units. And there will be potential servicing issues if you put things that far out. But it avoids a Kessler syndrome risk of low Earth orbit collisions. As in all things, these are compromises. but keeping the design solid state and cheap enough that failing units can simply be dropped and replaced means maintenance costs can be minimized. Now, the key problem for any space-based data center is heat dispersion and gamma ray damage, and that's been addressed using the latest heat shield tech from sun monitoring satellites, while a new windmill solar cell is aligned to disperse radiation energies, generate solar power, while simultaneously acting as a thermal radiator, in effect using the solar wind as a heat sink. Geosynchronous orbits also mean lower future power requirements, enabling all the energy generated by the sails to be devoted to compute functions. And these sails are each part of a distributed multi-unit data center that is coordinating using the distributed onboard AI, meaning that each unit remains precisely linked on station to maintain the later digital comms. And Blue Origin team head Brad Raybury reckons the flock should stay linked even though violent solar storms and solar prominences often hit the Earth's outer atmospheres. The implications for SpaceX are huge from new competition. Although Musk successfully innovated the electric vehicle market and has reaped massive rewards from the extraordinary share price resilience of Tesla, the car maker is now posting operational losses and no longer leads innovation in the sector. The robo-taxi mass rollout on which Musk has staked Tesla's future on has been delayed yet again, and recently a Finnish firm was in the papers by being able to announce solid-state 1,000-kilometer range batteries with a 5-minute charging cycle, a complete game-changer for the EV market. Now, history is full of lessons. The Wright brothers created the airplane market in November 2003 at Kitty Hawk, when mankind flew for the first time, but for the next 10 years, Wilbur and Oliver Wright had a monopoly. But by 1914, they had lost the lead in the tripping over myself this morning. But by 1914, the Wright brothers had lost the lead in the swiftly evolving aviation tech sector. Of the thousands of planes flown by the Allied nations in World War I, not a single one was built by the Wright brothers. And the same thing appears to have happened to Tesla. Although it now pins its future on robotaxis, that's a highly competitive space where Tesla has lost its first mover advantage. Now, although SpaceX is expected to launch its $75 billion funding from the IPO in June, which will be the largest on record, and will be admitted almost straight away onto the NASDAQ, and some think the S&P will also allow it to join very quickly, it appears to be at the top of its hype trajectory. If Starship is a flop and Blue Origin continues to improve its launch cadence and win broad government business, even Starlink may find itself under pressure for exactly the same reasons that Tesla is now in decline, and that's competition. Other people can build rockets, other people can build data centers in space or elsewhere. All these things are worth thinking about the next time you look at the SpaceX valuation charts, as they keep going up and up and up. But always remind yourself, why and are they sustainable? Anyway, have a great day. There's nothing like a pinch of salt on the first day of the second quarter of the year to set your mind in motion. I'll be back tomorrow with another morning porridge, which you'll be able to find on www.morningporridge.com. And if you sign up, you'll get it delivered to your inbox every morning. In the meantime, have a fantastic time, and I'll be back with something else completely different tomorrow. Thanks very much for your attention.